what are we talking about today? Well, I decided I needed a little break from the high-powered technical photography stuff that we've basically done every week for the last year. In fact, for more than the last year, for ages of loads of years actually. But I thought it would be nice to take a break and just talk about something that was important to me, and peripherally possibly important to you too, and certainly I hope important to some other folks, maybe some younger folks who are thinking about doing what I do for a living. Yeah, that kind of thing. And I want to talk about YouTube. And the more I thought about it, and I did think about it, I have been thinking about it for 7 years, but the more I thought about it, the more I thought it would be helpful to split this conversation into two. One, addressing why I love YouTube, and I think it's one of the greatest things that we've ever come up with, we being humans. And in the second conversation, I want to talk about why I'm thinking about leaving YouTube, and also covering why it's possible to have both of those strongly held convictions at the same time. And we'll talk about some of that tonight. There's a lot to talk about, and I want to go into a fair amount of detail because I want you to understand my motivation. I want you to understand what's going on with me about this, because obviously you've come to my live stream, you're interested in what I'm doing, and you're following along. Hopefully there's something you're getting out of these streams or the videos or all the other stuff we do. And I just want to explain to you how that fits into the bigger picture of the YouTube platform, and why it may not be the right place. It only took me 7 years to figure it out, but that's what I want to talk about today. The possibility that this will hit somebody who's just getting started in this world is what's really motivating me to do this, because if I had heard the conversation that I'm going to have with you over the next 2 live streams, it might well have changed not what I did, but how I thought about what I was doing. Because there is some stuff I'm going to be talking about here that is not possibly going to strike you as obvious. That it's going to challenge you a little bit to think about, and that's good. Because this is a complicated process. But I thought we could start with the easy stuff. The easy stuff is, what is YouTube, and why do I love it so much? Well, I have 2 relationships with YouTube. I have one where I am a subscriber to YouTube. I pay to be on YouTube so that I don't have to watch adverts. And I use YouTube on an almost daily basis, and I use it for some very specific reasons. A lot of people that I know also use it for very specific reasons, and they're all going to kind of gel together when I explain to you what my philosophy is behind all of this. Excuse me for 1 second while I get the rest of my notes. I had so many pages of notes over the last 2 weeks that I've been writing this, that it wouldn't print out in the usual amount of time. So it's printed now. I go through a lot of paper. So probably the first thing I want to talk to you about is why I believe YouTube is one of the internet's greatest triumphs. Seriously. I think that there is very little out there on the internet that can hold a candle to what YouTube has done. YouTube has done 3 things, in my opinion, 3 things that it's done extremely well. It has been a technological achievement to do what it's been able to do in terms of distributing video content. It's also become kind of a cultural archive. It's a history of us humans from when YouTube started up until today. It documents everything. Everything is on there. It's also a labor market. It's also a place that people go to work. A lot of people go to work. So I don't think it would be too unreasonable to describe YouTube as one of the most important innovations in the world of internet in our generation. I mean, our generations, probably in a couple of decades. I also think that it is a deeply dysfunctional place to work, and that's kind of the thesis that I want to share with you this next two discussions, is why I think it's one of the most brilliant inventions we've ever made, and it's one of the worst places to work for some people. And I'll describe those people in a little bit. What is it that it's done that makes it a once in a generation invention? And this is one of those inventions. Do you know who invented YouTube? Neither do I. I have no idea. I don't think one person did. I think it just was one of those organic things that came together from a bunch of input. But anyway, it has solved three huge problems in technology. The first one is, how can you distribute content, any content, globally over the entire planet at basically no cost to the company? How could you do that? Well, YouTube figured that out, and that's what they do. That's what they've been doing. They've been able to handle global distribution without basically any costs, except the usual technology stuff. Something else they've been able to do is develop a system of education that I would call asynchronous education, which is like, if you go to college and you do 4 years of college, that is very synchronous. You go through coursework. You can't do course C until you've done course B, and so on and so forth. But this platform allows you to go wherever you want. You can walk right in and go to some graduate level education in whatever field you're interested in, because nobody's checking your work. I mean, you can become educated on whatever you want, whenever you want. And the ability to create an entity that could provide asynchronous education to almost everybody in the world if they have an internet connection is pretty stunning. I mean, it is a once in a generation thing. I mean, it's never been done before, and it hasn't been done since. It also created a searchable, now you're going to say, well, not on your channel, Alan, but on everybody else's channel, a searchable, indexed catalog of expertise across every human domain that you can think of. In other words, if there's something that human beings do, somewhere on YouTube you can find a pocket of information about how to do that, or how to learn that, or how to speak that language, or grow that herb. There's nothing that humans do that you cannot find on this YouTube platform. It's just about everything, good and bad. There's some bad stuff that you have to go to other platforms to find, apparently, but we won't be talking about that. So one of the things that it's done is it's flattened access to expertise. In other words, you can find experts or relative experts in virtually any field you want. And that means that because it's non-synchronous, a retired nurse can learn welding over the weekend. A surgeon, like myself, can learn cinematography. A hobbyist can reach millions of people at the same time to talk to them about his hobby. This is unheard of before this happened. It's unprecedented stuff. It also created a new cognitive habit, a thinking and learning habit in the human beings that engage with YouTube in the right way, and we'll talk about what that is. It's people don't so much browse the internet. When was the last time you sat down and just started clicking on things to see what was on the internet? The internet's too big now. It's far too complex. You'll never get anywhere. You'll just end up in all kinds of loops. What we do nowadays is we consult the internet. We go to the internet. We go to YouTube to find an answer to our question. Now, there are other tools coming along, like the one I just talked about, that we're going to be using in my company. But for the time being, just talking about YouTube, it has really allowed people to develop this innate thought that the first thing that they're going to do when they're faced with a problem they're unfamiliar with is go to YouTube and see how other people managed it, see how other people got the lid off that jar. And it's kind of like a consulting relationship that we have. And I'll be talking about when I get into the whole idea of leaving YouTube. That's going to be one of the things that would be very hard for me to do. So I think that the key to using YouTube successfully is having intention. Is when you sit down to use YouTube, you are seeking to learn something or discover something or deepen an understanding of something. And there are, I don't think there's any doubt in my mind, at least, that intentional viewers are the ones that benefit the most from YouTube. Passive viewers, that would be the person that sits down and turns on, and I'm going to admit that I do this sometimes, who sit down, put on YouTube and look at what your feed gives you. Look at the videos that it presents to you. That is passive use of YouTube, and it basically just means ingesting what the algorithm gives you. I think that fewer and fewer people are doing that these days. They're using YouTube as a tool to solve a specific problem. So a couple of things to look at there are when you think about intentional or passive viewers, you need to think about subscriptions versus just looking at the recommendations that the algorithm gives you, like algorithmic viewing versus subscription viewing. Most of the people that I know who use YouTube in a similar way to myself have a large list of talent that they subscribe to, people that they want to learn from, people who have something to share with them. And very frequently when you go to the internet, that's what you'll go to, is your subscriber list, and look to see what is being done by that person and what you want to learn. Same with the queues of videos where you can put them in a watch later queue. That's the same kind of thing. You're setting up your own curated video library. If you think of channels, like if you think of the Alan Walls Photography channel as an author, as me, a content creator, rather than an entertainer, then you're on the right track, I think. Another sign that I'm using the tool the way is most effective for me is when I use playback speed. Did you know, for example, that when you increase the playback speed a little bit, say to 1.25x, you actually synchronize the speed at which you think with the speed at which some presenters will talk. I know people used to listen to mine at 2x because I kind of ramble a little bit, but it is a very, very useful thinking tool, and it's a sign, I think, that you're on the right track. Is if you're doing that, and also if you're pausing and replaying and rewatching segments of a video, it probably means you're using it as a learning tool. So it is an extraordinary resource for human beings when you resist the temptation to just go on there and be entertained or shocked or somehow titillated. But when you go on there to become educated, it is a monumentally powerful tool. So I've lived this now for 7 years. both being a creator and a consumer. And it's difficult to get my head around how wrong I was. If you heard me talk about my experience with the internet 6 years ago, you would have heard me rant about the unfairness of it. And that is something that has changed a great deal. I don't feel that way anymore. I don't believe that it is a malignant or a dangerous or unfair platform. I think I just misunderstood the ground rules of what it was and misunderstood my role in it. YouTube operates on an economics that is basically winner takes most. That means in a given area of interest, the top of the stack of content creators take most of the prize, and there's not really anything left for everybody else. And that is because of the type of content that's being produced and how it works in this very complex algorithm that they use to track the success and the appeal of particular content creators. So here are a couple of points worth thinking about. Uh, Advertising, which is basically the way that YouTube makes its money is through advertising, and the way that successful YouTube creators make their money is from advertising money as well. And it is structured this way. YouTube is structured this way that aggregated insurance pools, that is, companies that are willing to pay money to get their product advertised on this massive thing called YouTube, have to pick where those dollars are attributed to. Where do they go? And they go to the channels that grab the most attention. That is very different than going to a channel that gives people the most information or gives them the longest retention of that information. And I'm going to get to that in just a second. But the algorithms are designed to amplify content that is already performing well. They don't look for rubbishy content and then promote it so that it can become popular content and then advertise on it. They look for the stuff that people are already watching. This makes sense. Scale beats quality every single time. So when a channel can garner a million views in the first day, it is going to attract all the advertising dollars over the one that has 18 views over the course of a year. Being in a niche within a niche like my channel is, and I'm not going to talk a lot about my channel. I'm going to refer to some of my experience, but only in passing. I'm not. This is not a complaining session. This is a constructive discussion where I want to help you understand how this thing works. But at the bottom line, a niche type of organization like mine that's dealing with a small section of photography, a technical section within close-up photography, even smaller than that. When you're in a niche like that, you cannot compete with mass appeal, and it's silly to think you can. Success feeds itself and leads to more success, and obscurity, like channels like mine, do not, obviously. So the algorithm that everybody talks about doesn't optimize for value. It optimizes for velocity, how quickly you can get eyes on that content, because that's all the advertisers want. Now, the algorithm versus the niche audience. You are a niche audience, and that is something that's very important to understand. Niche creators like Stuart Wood and myself are punished for doing what, do you think? for serving our audience too well. That's really what it boils down to. Here's the deal. A finite audience, that is the number of people who are potentially going to be interested enough to sit through me talking for 50 minutes on macro photography, is a finite pool of people. There are only so many people who will do that. And that's very important to understand. My audience pool cannot grow beyond that, because there is just no interest beyond those that are interested. It stands to reason. Viewers that repeat, viewers that come back and watch and participate and engage with the process, will eventually get saturated. And this also is obvious. You couldn't go to college for 18 years. Well, I did actually, but yeah, most people wouldn't go to college for 18 years, because eventually they don't want any more knowledge. And that's the same thing with our niche type of platforms. Expertise kind of narrows the appeal over time. There's only so much of that we can absorb. And when you teach things clearly, when you go to the kind of trouble that that Stuart goes to, for example, or Curious Scientist goes to explain things in great detail, that reduces the novelty of what they're doing. When I explain something in just grainy detail so that you can completely understand it, there's no novelty there. It's nothing exciting. I don't set fire to my hair or anything. It's just a pure form of content. So depth performs a lot worse than surprise. The electrician guy who electrocutes himself all the time, what's his name? I can't remember. An Eastern chap who's a professor of electronics, and he touches electronics and electrocutes himself on YouTube. Good for him. There's a lot of surprises in there, but he also teaches a lot of stuff well, and he has a massive channel, millions of viewers. And you know that there are, and probably some of you are saying, well, hang on a second, there are loads of people out there on YouTube who are delivering really good, dense, accurate, well-researched information on science or on some other on mathematics, like Veritasium, or what is it, 3 blue 1 brown, or 3 brown 1 blue. Lots and lots of people who are both extremely successful on the platform but producing this kind of niche content. Well, they're actually not, and I'll get to that a little later. They're producing a different kind of content, a self-contained block of content that doesn't require prior knowledge, doesn't require additional knowledge afterwards. It can all be fit into one video. They're highly charismatic and usually have a lot of investment in visuals, that type of thing. So it's really not, they're really not niche creators. They have a different category. But anyway, I'm wandering. So the bottom line is this: the better you serve your audience. You came here to learn about macro photography from somebody you think knows something about it. Fair enough. That's what I've been doing for 7 years, is I've been giving you everything that I think you need to be as good a macro photographer as you can possibly be. End of story. And the better you do that, the less YouTube needs you. Seriously. It is a self-defeating approach to being on YouTube. So why do creators like me stay on the channel? Because surely I would have thought of this before now, though honestly I didn't really think this way before quite recently. I used to think that that the platform was malignant and it was abusive of people that provided content knowing full well they'd never be able to make any money doing it, yet they'd spend their whole lives trying to. That's the people I'm trying to talk to here, is the people who are passionate and also hungry and young and trying to become self-sufficient and have a family. It's very, very difficult to, at the beginning of that process, to separate your excitement and your passion from the reality of what you might be getting into. And that's really what I want to talk to you about. So why do people stay? It's mainly for the same reason that people continue gambling when they lose. It's intermittent reinforcement that makes it so appealing for people like me. And I'm a fairly smart chap, and I have not really thought about leaving until very recently. It's because you get these unpredictable success spikes. I had one video that did really well, and I absolutely didn't expect it. That's the kind of thing that will keep you doing this for years afterwards. Every now and again, the algorithm will smile on you, and you'll see your video pop up at the top of a search list. You get public validation. The people that are self-selected to talk to you and thank you for what you do are usually very flattering, and it feels good for strangers to say, I love what you're doing there. And there's also a slightly darker side to this, and that is there's a logical fallacy called sunk cost fallacy, where we believe that, heck, we've been doing it this long, might as well just stick with it. I mean, we've already invested 7 years, might as well give it the rest of our lives. That's a dangerous way to think, but it's part of it. So there's nothing there. YouTube is remarkably good at keeping intelligent, rational people hopeful. Bottom line. It's not an insult either to say that. It's just an observation. They are really good at that. So I don't in any way feel victimized, because nobody forced me to do this. Nobody forced me to stay here. And I was smart enough to figure out really early on what the realities of this kind of life were going to look like. But at the same time, I don't consider myself a failure either, just because I misunderstood how the machine worked. I still have a large number of people who follow my work and engage with what we do here, and have learned a lot of photography, and that is by any stretch, that is a success. I mean, that if I had one follower after 7 years, I would start to rethink that. But I didn't fail YouTube, and YouTube just doesn't reward what I do. It rewards a different thing. And I wasn't tricked into being here, and I just didn't ask the right questions. I just didn't examine the evidence that was out there that I could have benefited from had I slowed down long enough to do it. But I didn't, because I wanted to do this badly. So I was going to talk about alternative platforms to YouTube, but I'm not going to, because I think it'll kind of dilute the process. I definitely don't want to talk about money. This isn't about money. It really isn't, other than in abstract terms. Other platforms may give you more or less ownership of your audience, access to your audience. Your content may or may not be portable. You can leave with it, or it stays with the platform. There are all kinds of direct support methods where your audience actually pays your salary, and there are platforms with a great deal of community depth and reach, and some with none. And there are some platforms that give long-term sustainability. People remain on those platforms for a long time. I think Substack is going to be one of those. But anyway, I'm not looking to be discovered. I realized that when my numbers leveled off at about 25,000, that I had probably saturated the possibilities among those people who were interested in what I did. I don't expect that to increase significantly. So I'm not interested in being discovered. I've been discovered by the people that wanted to discover me. Now I'm interested in being supported somehow, and that's a different thing, very profoundly different. So why YouTube matters is because it has done amazing things and continues to do amazing things. There are ways that we can use it well, and I talked about those different tactics that you can use to be an active and engaged user of YouTube rather than just a passive a consumer of the funny videos. It asks a lot of creators, and the bargain doesn't work for everybody. For some people, those people who are producing the kind of content that is going to have a lot of splash and a lot of general appeal across all kinds of disciplines, again, I'd refer to somebody like Veritasium, who's superb and appeals to a huge number of people, millions of people. Good for him, and that kind of dynamic simply doesn't translate to the kind of stuff that niche people work in. I'm not going to. I'm not. By the way, I'm not talking about this as a prelude to telling you that I'm leaving or quitting or anything like that. I have no plans to do any of that. I just thought that this was a good time to share with you what I've been thinking, and yeah, I don't regret a single minute I have spent on YouTube in 800 hours or whatever it is. But being grateful for the experience is not the same as an obligation. I just want to be clear that I don't know what I'm going to do, but maybe this clarity will help me to make a good decision, because I haven't made very many of those of late. Okay, so let me kind of summarize. I wrote this piece so many times to try to explain exactly what I feel about this. But first of all, it's hard to overstate how important YouTube has been to my personal development. I have learned about more stuff through YouTube than I could ever I could ever list. I mean, every day I go and learn new stuff that I'm interested in, and it's no longer do I have to come up with money to get educated on this. I don't have to drive to another town to get taught about whatever it is I'm interested in. And anybody with curiosity can sit down at the computer, log into YouTube and start learning. Type a question in, find out what's out there, and start watching it. YouTube is not in the business of just distributing video. It's in the business of distributing access to knowledge. That's what's different about it. If you're a thoughtful viewer, and I suspect that most of you are, it can be a profoundly generous place. And people comment on this to me all the time. They will write to me and say, thank you for giving so much of the information you have to us for free. And that's always gratifying to hear, because it is a profoundly generous place, especially when you approach it deliberately and you're subscribing to content that is not mass appeal content. When you're taking your education from people who have these niche channels like my own, then you are taking something of great value from that relationship, something that's given freely and accepted graciously. You're building a kind of living library when you do that, and when you build a relationship along with it, it's even more powerful. So you're a growing living library that is shaped by your interests, your questions, and your desire to learn. YouTube rewards curiosity in a way that nothing else does, in my opinion. It gives you so much. I watched a video, I don't really have time to digress, but I watched a video this morning about a Vietnamese man who I guess he got sick of living in his village and decided to build his own village basically on a lake, on a boat. And he did it all with a hammer and a machete, and he built it out of bamboo and wood, and he caught chickens and he had fish and he made nets, and he built this floating complex. I was absolutely mesmerized by it. I learned more about how to tie together bits of bamboo with bits of string you made from bamboo. Probably never use it, but what a rich vein of knowledge. I was one of 36 million people to watch that video, by the way. You need to become some of the rest of them as well. It's very, very good. Just search for man builds village on lake. Anyway, he had a nice dog as well that was very friendly. It's a great way to get your curiosity managed. When you live inside the platform where I have, not as a consumer but as a creator, it feels very different. It does. It feels that the abundance, it comes at a cost. To give and give like a lot of especially younger YouTubers who are trying to make a mark. It's exhausting, and when you realize that mastery is not what people are rewarded for, when they're rewarded more for momentum and getting content out, whatever it is, whether so long as it has scale, as long as it's scalable, then it kind of, you get this feeling that you're being torn between producing good content. That's always been my philosophy, is I will make the best content that I can make with the resources I have and with the knowledge I have. And that was the most important thing. I wouldn't put out videos just to put out videos. I'd put out videos that I thought were good content. That's actually not the way the algorithm works, as people for years would tell me, and I wouldn't listen. So you have to be careful about equating the fact that because your work is good, that it will somehow be rewarded. The platform is not designed to do that. The platform is not designed to measure and reward accuracy or the quality of the material that you present, or the length of time the viewer retains that information, or how the viewer feels about the experience. It doesn't matter, because the YouTube algorithm doesn't measure it. It measures proxies for it, but it doesn't measure the types of things that would give them useful information. What they measure is how long your eyes were on the screen, how long did you stay on that platform, and how often do you return to that channel, and so on and so forth. It's watch times and how many subscribers you have, and these things, they are the factors that will make the difference between making a decent living doing this and not. And that's not a secret, and it's not an evil design to somehow cheat people who are making different kinds of content out of a fair income, because they're completely upfront about it. They will tell you exactly what your likelihood of making a living doing this is. And I had to be very, very careful not to play a victim in this, because I'm not a victim. I could have left at any time, but it does cause a strange tension when you're doing I think most of us, I hope most of us grew up in an environment where we had this absolute certainty that if we did the right thing, if we worked hard, if we studied hard, if we got good grades, we would be rewarded for that somehow, somewhere. That is not how the YouTube algorithm works. You are not rewarded for those things that you value. You're rewarded for the things that YouTube values, which is the ability to generate revenue from advertising. And if you're doing that, then you're in alignment. If you're not, you are out of alignment, and you can expect to have the same kind of experience I have. And that's why this discussion is important, because I want anybody who's thinking about doing this to really understand this, like I didn't, is there are other platforms that have other slightly different philosophies that may be a better fit for you. There are other career paths that may be a better fit for you. But knowing this and having some knowledge is very, very important. And I urge you to continue to ask questions if you're in that boat. So I can talk about and think about leaving this platform at the same time as talking about and thinking about how grateful I am that this thing exists. They're both completely consistent with one another. So I think that there is one set of claims that I made early on. I think it's worth mentioning briefly because they're important. I have some premises that I think were hard baked into my head early on in this YouTube experience, and I think they are all right. They are all correct, but I think I just looked at them in an inaccurate way. Let me tell you what they are. Premise A is that the value of high quality educational video production increases as audience reach increases. So in other words, the more people you're getting to with your high quality content, the more value it has. Okay, YouTube is undoubtedly the dominant platform for reaching people. Okay, you can reach more people through YouTube than anything else because they are everywhere, and that's just, you just take my word for that. I think it's true. Premise C: YouTube is absolutely fully aware of the fact that niche creators like myself and millions of others generate durable, high quality content, but that they can't reach a mass audience with it. They know that. They know that. YouTube has the technical and economic capacity to support multiple compensation models, but they don't. They support one. They support the one that rewards the attention and volume. So why does YouTube not choose to do so? Why does it not choose to have, say, 2 or 3 different financial models where they would also reward the people making durable, high quality content? Because that has, it's not going to reach the mass market, so that you're not going to make any money from advertising, but it's still content that gives credibility to the platform, and people still come to the platform to see it. Well, that's a big question mark in my mind. YouTube knowingly benefits from a class of creators that I would fall in, whose labor it doesn't really compensate. It doesn't compensate at all. And part of the reason is that we'll keep doing it regardless. That's part of the thing about being a person that produces high quality educational content, is you're doing it because you love it, you're passionate about it, and you're going to do it anyway. I think that's a perfectly coherent emotional argument that is quite internally consistent, that they know that we're there, they know what we're doing, they're not paying us, and they're okay with that. Why is that? Is it ethically justified or not? Well, I think there's a problem here. that we haven't looked at, and it's what gets them off the hook, and why I've changed the way I think about them. YouTube needs to kind of choose between supporting mainstream creators, the big flow people, and niche creators. That's the argument that people make, but that is a false argument. That's a false dichotomy. There is no technical, there is no economic, no algorithmic reason why YouTube couldn't support all of us, right? Just use different metrics to tell, to compare the value of different niche creators. You could set up different metrics to find out, who's worth paying or not. But they don't do that. Why not? Well, they know that, they know that we're going to produce the work anyway if they don't have that financial model, and they know that creators are motivated by service and by identity and by community, vocation, meaning. Everybody I know who does this is that kind of person. They're serious about what they do and what they believe in, and from the system's perspective, from YouTube's perspective, we creators look like stable, low risk, self-motivating, don't need retraining. You just let them do their thing, make their videos. It's going to be good stuff, and people will watch it. That is the reality of it. So YouTube benefits from us. We don't benefit from YouTube, and this is the key point. And I'm going to spend the last 5 minutes talking about this. In order to call that exploitation, which I am not calling it, you have to have intent. You have to intentionally be setting up this system so that you can exploit the workers. But that's not what they're doing. What do you think the dictionary defines exploitation as? It must consist of at least one of these: coercion, forcing people to do stuff; deception, lying to them about it; inducing a dependency so that they have to continue to toil in this situation; or by deliberately misrepresenting the opportunity, by telling them, if you come here, you'll do this, you'll make this, that, and the other, and you'll be famous, and so on. They don't do any of that. They do not. They have never done it. They didn't do it with me. They don't coerce creators. They don't promise a living wage. They don't conceal the monetization realities. In fact, you can look at their website and you can see pretty much exactly what you're going to make with the viewership that you're going to start with. But these are facts. So we're left with a question of, we cannot define this as exploitation because it doesn't meet the definition of exploitation. But are you completely innocent if you have kind of this ethical neutrality, if you just let it happen? And I think that's where I come to rest on this. There's a difference between neutrality and you could call it strategic indifference. It is their strategy just to not pay attention to that and not look at it, just let it continue to happen. And that is different than exploitation because it requires us to do it. So strategic indifference is probably the model that YouTube works on, which completely exonerates them from any kind of bad acting in the traditional sense of the word, but it's not ethically clean either. And it's one of the reasons I think that people eventually come to the conclusion that it might not be the best platform for them if they are a niche creator. Of course, if you're a flow creator and you have millions of viewers and you're making a massive living and you're famous and everything, you're not going to leave anyway. So we're talking about people responding to a system that's kind of extractive without being predatory. They're taking something of value from you because you're giving it to them. Get the difference? All right, listen, that is a huge amount of information, and we are just now getting to the important part, which is why do we leave? And why am I thinking about leaving? This was the loving it part. There's a leaving it part as well, and that's what I want to talk about on Thursday. And it is 9 o'clock. My goodness, I need to talk faster. I thought I talked pretty fast on this, so I hope that you clearly hear that I don't have an axe to grind here. I am not disappointed or angry or upset with anybody, including myself. I wouldn't have done this any differently. I've enjoyed every minute of it, and I plan to continue enjoying every minute of it. As we go down the road. But yeah, I'm not holding YouTube or any other business responsible for the decisions I made. What I do want to do, though, like I said, is clue people in who are at the beginning of this process and help them understand what the stakes are. If you know anybody who is a content creator who's new to it and just getting started and may not have thought through all of this stuff, suggest they drop in on Thursday and just and listen to the other half of this, because I think it'll help people. It's a little more structured. There's a lot of stuff to cover, but anyway, I hope this was useful for you. It was nice for me to take a break from the usual stuff and talk about something I'm pretty passionate about. So I will see you guys on Thursday for Macro Talk 2. Saturday for either Presume, if you're so inclined, or Tangent. I hope you'll come to Tangent. It's a lot of fun. And we're talking about Blender, as I said, yeah. And then next week you won't see me at all, because I will be with the reindeer, or whatever it is you do at Christmas. I'm not very good at Christmas. So yeah, but I'll be back the week after that. So thank you very much for coming. And my goodness, there is a super chat from Harold that I didn't see, and from Klaus, which I didn't see. Thank you so much, guys. That's wonderful. Oh, there's obviously some good comments here. I'm going to have to go through these comments after I sign off, because I do want to read them. This is fantastic stuff. I thoroughly enjoyed this. It's good to step away from the microscope for an hour or two and talk about something else. I'm very much looking forward to Presume on Saturday, by the way, if you guys are going to be able to make it, and I will see you then. Until then, have a safe evening, and don't take no wooden nickels, as they say somewhere about something. I don't even know what it means, but take care. Good night.